Well, Israelis are, of course, feeling the pain of repeated failures to secure a hostage deal, especially in the aftermath of yet another Hamas propaganda video. Now, joining us to discuss the current situation and what hope there may be for releasing these hostages is Gershon Baskin, the Middle East director at the International Communities Organization. Gershon, welcome. Thank you for being with us. Always a pleasure to have you on. I'd like to start by getting your take on the current breakdown in negotiations. We see pressure mounting in Biden's final days in office. It seems several times we've been close, and according to the U.S., at least in the last clip we saw, Hamas has balked multiple times at the last minute. What's your take on this?
I don't see that as a purely accurate reading of the reality on the ground. The fact is that it takes two sides to tango, and both sides have to agree to make an agreement. Hamas's demands have included an end to the war and Israeli withdrawal from Gaza, and they are willing to release all the 100 hostages in exchange for that, with, of course, the release of Palestinian prisoners. But Israel has refused to end the war or to withdraw from Gaza. So this is one of the points that we're blocked on. Another point is that Israel is demanding a veto on 60 or 65 names of Palestinian prisoners to be released. Hamas doesn't agree to that. Israel wants to deport Palestinian prisoners who will be released. Hamas doesn't agree to that. Hamas has been demanded to present a list of 32 or 34 living hostages that would be released in the first release. Hamas says that they are not able to do that. They have about 20 names that they can give right now. They say they need a ceasefire for about 1 week in order to collect the information of where all the hostages are and what their condition is. And this is completely reasonable because they control actually very little of the Gaza Strip.
Now, we heard also from Secretary Blinken that when pressure on Israel mounted, whether through internal protests or global pressure, he argued that it discouraged Hamas from making a deal. We, of course, have also heard consistent messaging from Hamas in their psychological warfare videos, hostage videos, almost every one of them calling for Israelis to protest against their government. How can Israel and the global community increase pressure on Hamas to agree to make a deal and hopefully fast for the sake of these hostages?
Yeah, there's very little that the international community can do to pressure Hamas to make a deal. Hamas's main interest is to end the war because, and they've been saying this for months. In fact, in September, they agreed to a deal that would release all the hostages on the condition that the war would be ended. It's not clear whether or not Hamas is, in fact, as they said, willing to give up control of Gaza, or at least governmental control of Gaza. This is also something they've been saying as recently as 2 days ago when they issued a statement supporting an Egyptian attempt to create a civilian technocratic government in Gaza. But the issue of Hamas's weapons and its troops is still undefined. And this is something that Israel has refused to deal with. It has to be dealt with at the political level, not only at the military level, if we want to get a deal that's going to bring back all the hostages. And all the hostages will not come back until the war is over.
And now Hamas and, of course, its sponsor, the Islamic Republic of Iran, are both anticipating somewhat of a crackdown with Trump's upcoming presidency. What do you expect to see from the next administration? And do you think that they'll be able to successfully secure the release of some, if not all, of our hostages?
I spoke to one of the heads of the Israeli negotiation last week, and I understood that January 20th is a target date to reach an agreement. And that's the date that Trump takes the oath of office and comes into the White House. There is a sense in Israel that this is a kind of target date that should be met in order to give Trump on his first days in office. This is a kind of a political gift. So there might be an incentive here to reach a deal by January 20th. Iran is not involved in these negotiations, and Hamas doesn't take instructions from Hamas. You said that this is a Iranian-sponsored organization. It's not. They receive support from Iran.
I would say $100 million annually is pretty big support from the Islamic regime in Iran, and in fact, both sides agree on that.
I would question the numbers. One, it's no doubt that the Islamic Jihad is sponsored by Iran, but let's not forget Hamas is a Sunni movement, and they're not part of the Shiite axis. They receive political support, and other support from Iran. But Hamas is not an Iranian-sponsored organization. It is a Palestinian organization. Its roots are in Palestinian society and not within the axis of the Shiite alliances.
Well, Gershon, I'm sorry, I have to correct this for our viewers, but this is absolutely not true. There's a reason that Hania was assassinated on the ground inside of Tehran. These agreements are acknowledged on both sides. So I understand your specification that they're Palestinian. They're not an Iranian group. But they are an Iranian regime-sponsored terrorist organization. Absolutely,
no,
both sides admit
true.
this.
But okay, you're deceiving your viewers. That is not true. It wasn't started by Iran. They've had support.
No one said it was started.
Over the years,
but they are a proxy.
2012.
Broke ties so much so that Ismail Hania had an apartment inside of Tehran.
I think I'm a little bit of an expert on the issue of Hamas, having dealt with them for 18 years directly. This is part of the mythology about what Hamas is.
I'm sorry, but the financial track record is not mythology. But I do want to thank you for your time, Gershon, and for your insight on the hostage situation. Thank you, Gershon.
A lot more money from Qatar than they ever received from Iran, and the Israeli negotiators.
The fact that others gave them more money is irrelevant to the fact that they are a stated proxy of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Both sides have acknowledged that. Thank you, Gershon, for your time today.
Welcome.